You guys should have got a got it button.
Yep.
All right. Can somebody else say something?
Okay.
Passed.
All right. It's
Yeah.
okay.
I'm going to turn on the radio. Hello,
YouTube, we
IAcast
are
Radio.
live.
Hello, IAcast Radio and YouTube. We are here for the start of a new podcast. I will let Alicia take it away. So hope you guys stay tuned and enjoy the show.
Okay. All right. All right. Preliminaries. Do I have to close the, can I close the YouTube app without it breaking the live stream? Because it opened the YouTube
Keep
app.
it open.
Yeah, because the chat will be there.
Okay. I'm just gonna pause the audio then.
Oh yeah, that's what I do.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Pause. Dang you. Okay, there we go. All
Remember
right.
to record, Alicia.
Of course. It would not be advisable to not record. All right, let me post on Mastodon. I forgot to post on Mastodon. I know.
Oh, while we're thinking about YouTube, I wonder if there's a way we're talking here on the radio station about new stuff. So we're working on the iAccessibility website. For people that may not know, is there a way where we could put the newest YouTube content on the WordPress site?
There sure is, Michael.
Well, we will have to do that. Like, where
Yes.
it's just one embed, front page, boom.
You could do like a post, like a plugin that automatically does it.
Cool. Great.
I don't know if that one's still around, but if it isn't, I can come up with something.
I didn't know if there was a YouTube embed that could do it.
No, because you don't want to have to do it manually. That'd be a pain in my butt. So you just do it automatically.
No. Because YouTube videos you could just embed by pasting the link.
Oh, there is. Yes, there is. You can do that, but I thought you just wanted like them automatically added to the site.
Yeah, I didn't know if YouTube had something that could just automatically.
No, they do not. You have to do it manually.
That's a shame. Yeah, we'll figure out something. But I'm going to disable and re-enable the Zoom block because Audio Hijack is still having issues in Sonoma. So we'll see if that makes any difference.
What are you doing, Alicia? Oh, she's trying to. I wasn't sure what she was doing. Oh, Mastodon.
All right, there we go.
All right.
Mastodon is posted. Oh, crap. Okay. Still trying to navigate my way around here. Where's my Zoom screen? Oh no. Okay, I'm done with you. You're good.
I'll monitor chat if need be too.
I got it. All right, you're about to get a got it button. I'm about to start recording.
All right.
You ready?
Yep.
Here comes a got it button. All right. You guys ready?
Ready.
Michael, are you ready? Oh, you're talking.
He's just
doing your own
streaming.
background thing. All right.
I'm just here.
Okay, well, you can mute yourself if you want to.
Yeah, by the way, you'll when you see me mute, I will not be muting on Zoom. I'll be muting just with my microphone since that comes through the radio as well. So You may see me unmuted in Zoom, but I am not here.
Okay, that's fine. Taylor, you ready?
Yep.
Before that, is my audio sounding okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sound pretty good to me.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the very first episode of Eyes Off the Norm. I am here with special guest Taylor Arndt. Hello, Taylor.
Hi, Alicia.
All right. Today, I really wanted to talk about like the first this is the first episode of the podcast, so I want to go over like a little bit of an introductory of like what the podcast is, what it's going to be all about. I really wanted to have a place to just have raw conversations and, you know, like talk about like everyone talks about like publicly about like how empowering and things that, you know, disabilities are, and how like you can you could stop everything, you could do everything you wanted to, and don't let anything stop you, etc., etc. But I really wanted to like I wanted this to kind of be a forum of advice for people, and, you know, just discussion about things that don't usually get talked about by the blind community, you know, because people have different struggles and people have different, you know, views on life and different walks of life. So I wanted to really like have a place and a forum to have those types of people on and have those types of discussions. So Eyes Off the Norm is the whole point of Eyes Off the Norm is to have raw conversations from a blind point of view, like no filters, just full, no judgment, just have these blind community, not necessarily struggles conversations, but just you know, just a form of advice. So today's episode, I really wanted to get into how someone who has a disability can gain skills and learn new skills without formal training or VR. Because VR, you know, vocational rehabilitation in the traditional sense and formal training in the traditional sense isn't for everybody. If you, depending on like your functioning status and like how much you're able to process and learn and do and navigate VR and formal training, you could be in like the in between of having that help you and the in between of like, you know, some parts it could help, some parts it couldn't, and in other parts VR could want to shove you into a job that you don't want to do, and it's just a dead end thing. And then if you keep it, they kind of just leave you in the dust. So I've noticed that VR is helpful for some people and not for others. So I really wanted to like have a space to like have this conversation about how helpful / unhelpful VR is and how helpful / unhelpful formal training can be. And I also wanted to go into like other methods of learning skills and like, you know, to kind of help people get out there and still learn what they want to do, even if they can't access formal training. I'm not going to go and tell you that you could be a doctor without formal training. No, that's not what I'm talking about here.
No.
But I want people to know that if formal training is not an option and if VR is not an option, that there are other things out there that they can use and, you know, work through. So I brought Taylor on because Taylor has had experience with this. Taylor has been in positions that where accessibility is a major problem. She has been in a formal training setting with a college and things like that. Like I witnessed this, not fully witnessed it, but Taylor obviously witnessed it more than I did, but like she told us about it. Um, she's been in situations where she's had accessibility be a problem, and that's the reason why she couldn't reach her goals and get the formal training she needed. And she's had, different issues as far as that goes. So I wanted this to like be a space for us to like talk about it and maybe help other people out who might be experiencing something similar. So Taylor, do you want to maybe talk about like the struggles you've come across as far as like formal training and vocational rehabilitation and things like that, so that we can get a background? You can go first.
Yeah, I'll go first. So again, as Alicia said, my name is Taylor Arndt. I live in Austin, Texas. I used to be from Michigan, and I have been in the voc rehab system since I was 14. Basically, what had happened was I lived in a very small town. Small towns usually mean very limited resources. As a result, accessibility advocacy was a skill that had to be learned basically since I was 12. The way I've learned that skill is meeting a lot of other blind people through different camps and other events. And what I also did was I led the charge. I was at my own meetings, IEP meetings, the meetings that you have when you are in school. I was sitting in those meetings telling people what they should do in 5th grade. Now, of course, people may be like, what? Like, how did you do that? And I won't say that I did that alone, because I went to a lot of camps and things. But the point being is that I've had struggles with vocational rehabilitation for my life. I mean, they were very bad. Like when I went to training for voc rehab and in Michigan, I felt like I got a lot out of it. But then when I realized I moved to Texas, and I kind of felt like I didn't know anything. And Michael, who is here, he's streaming, for us, he's been doing voc rehab. He's worked in it for 10 years. And I realized that my skills are absolute craptastic. I didn't feel like I had the necessary skills. Of course, I was, taught, oh, I have everything, but then realized that because, I had other assistants or whatever, family would try to do things that I didn't even know about, or just random things like that, that I didn't have all the necessary puzzle pieces in order to make a logical life and have good skills that would actually fit together. So long story short, I came here basically with, I thought, a lot of confidence. My work skills were very, very good. Of course, I got a job. That's why I came to Texas. But in terms of my life skills, those are where things were lacking. The only life skill that I seemed to master was finances. But yeah, that's kind of how that all went around. College for me was interesting. In Michigan, I went to college for computer science. I did that for about a couple of years, struggled with math. Then in 2020, got laid off from my student position where I helped with accessibility. Then I'm like, well, this is just not working. I don't want to stay at this college if I'm not going to get anything out of it. Dropped out, found a job. Well, actually started a business. Then I found a job, came to Texas, and I'm going to school again actually now for accounting. Now, this is the part that Alicia witnessed. Basically, my first class was totally inaccessible for me. Well, had I not known that basically some proper protocols weren't being followed at the college to make it accessible. And then, of course, I'm still taking a class right now that is actually fully accessible for me. So it's all about the people that you work with. And really, again, it comes down to advocacy, because I wanted to drop both classes, but then I'm like, no, I don't want to, because really the tax class that I'm taking right now is going to make or break my livelihood. Yes, the fundamentals of accounting class that I tried to take earlier this semester was good, but it wasn't essential. But the tax class, if that wouldn't have been accessible, I would have been a heck of a lot more mad about that one than the other class. So
Womp
long
womp.
story short is that, practical applications are better, at least for me, and that's why I like community colleges, because I can get the practical skills that I need in a short amount of time. Yeah, you can go ahead, Alicia. I have more stuff, but I won't let you talk.
I actually have a question. Have you ever been through any other training that wasn't like necessarily college?
Yeah, so I took a tax class this summer. It was a vendor called Tax Mama. It was really good. They didn't really have a whole lot of accessibility, but I was probably the first blind person. I gained a lot out of it, but unfortunately for unforeseen circumstances that I'm not going to talk about here due to confidentiality reasons, that class ended up not working out, not because of the instructor, but not because of me, but because of other circumstances in the instructor's personal life.
Yay.
Yeah.
So the main reason why I also wanted to talk about this this topic, was because I have had my fair share of issues when it comes to formal training and formal training and academics and things like that to like try to build skills. I've had leaps and bounds. I've come from crazy, crazy, crazy situations as far as like college and stuff goes. So, what happened with me was I started with I graduated high school. When I graduated high school, I had my heart set on psychology. I got into psychology and I started learning about like, you know, how our crazy brain works and things like that. And the reason why I did that was because I wanted to become a licensed substance abuse counselor. I wanted to help people who struggled with the issues that my parents struggled with. So I got into, I had my heart set on substance abuse counseling. Well, then my mental health took a downfall and hit the deck. So I had to rethink my options because I didn't feel like I felt like if I was not mentally stable, I was not going to be able to help someone else's mental stability. So I decided that maybe it was a good idea to switch gears. I had been in freelance writing for a while, so I said maybe I should just do that full time. But before that, I was convinced to stay in college by my parents. And then I uh and then so I changed my major to creative writing and then, tried to keep going. I did that for like a couple months and then I was like, nope, that doesn't fit what I do. I don't really like it. So I just dropped out. Well, I tried to return. Whenever I left, I made sure that my scholarship and all of that stuff and my grant wouldn't depreciate when I left. But I came across a problem where I didn't I also kind of just didn't feel like college was my strong suit and I didn't feel like it was me. I did better in college than I did in high school, but I wanted something where I could earn while I learn. And that was not necessarily an option because of what I wanted to do in college. And I didn't think that there was a major that would suit what I was doing in college. So I just decided to leave. When I left, when I left, I got into a situation where I kept going with my freelancing. I was doing all right. And then I started to change my mind. I started to have a bunch of self-reflection, especially like last year. Last year was a really hard year for me. So I started having a little bit of a self-reflection moment, and I was telling myself like, okay, maybe it would be a good idea to go back to school. So I I decided that it was a good idea to maybe it was a good idea to you know, go back to school and get a degree in marketing, even if it was just an associate's, because it would boost my career. When I tried to go back to school, I applied for a grant and I could, because I was too young to not be claimed as a dependent, I was added with my parents' tax income. And I had to have my parents' tax info until I turned 24. So,
Really?
yeah, I had to be claimed as a dependent until I turned 20. I had not claimed as a dependent on the federal student aid form. You're considered a dependent until you're 24.
Interesting, because I filed it last year without me being my parents' dependent, but that's because I was a part-time student. But yeah, interesting.
That doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, that doesn't mean anything. I tried to file as a part-time student and I still was claimed as a dependent.
Weird.
So my parents made too much money. I couldn't do it because my parents made too much money. So I lost my grant because my expected family contribution was $2,000 and some change. And they weren't going to contribute, and I wasn't about to ask them to contribute. So I looked around for other scholarships, couldn't find any, looked around for, other grants, couldn't find any. The school tried to pressure me into getting a loan because, of course, they did. Didn't want to, refused to. Not taking on a student loan because half the time people are paying off student loans in their 60s, and I didn't want to be that dope. Sorry, people who have student loans. No offense. I'm sorry. But anyways, I just decided that that wasn't an option for me. So I took to a certification in digital marketing instead of a degree. But that's fine. I feel like that's perfectly going to suit my needs. And even that was still pretty expensive, but it's a one-time cost versus going and going and going and going for 4 years, 2 to 4 years. I could just pay that once and then renew it every 3 years. No big deal. So, yeah. Do you have any advice, Taylor, as far as like what people should do as far as like, gaining these types of skills?
Do you mean blindness or college, or like what kind of skills?
Like just building skills if they can't get access to formal training.
I would start looking for certifications. Like, when I started doing the bookkeeping, I looked for certifications. I'm like, well, I could just do this QuickBooks Pro Advisor from Intuit. It was free. I knocked it out in 3 days. And then I got a payroll certification, which was free. And then I got another certification, which was free. I have like 4 different accounting certifications. I've been working in accounting for like, 3 or 4 years, but really my accessibility certifications, I have none. And I've been doing that the longest. So it's very interesting.
Do you think you're going to get a certification in the future?
In accessibility, I don't know that I will. Maybe.
Really?
But they're really expensive, and one of them is really inaccessible. With the tech industry the way it is right now, I don't know that I will. I don't know if it's worth my ROI, return on investment, just because of how interesting the tech market is. And considering I'm really not even doing accessibility for any of my clients right now, I may not.
Right. We have a message in the chat.
All right. You got it, Alicia?
Someone said difference if someone lives at home with their family or if they live on their own, if they are claimed as dependent. Okay, that makes sense.
Okay.
So you lived on your own, therefore you were not claimed as dependent.
Yeah, so there is a lot of tax things that go along with that. What I would say is if you question your dependent status, I would talk to a tax professional, a competent tax professional, because it all depends state by state by state. Well, not really state, but if you have like a grant or different tax credits or different things like that. But yes, since I lived on my own, I was a dependent. I mean, I technically could be claimed by my parents because if you're disabled, you technically could be claimed forever. Don't know why the IRS does that. It's really, really stupid. I don't know. It's just my opinion. So yes, by the way, this is not official tax advice, but really,
warning, Taylor's tax advice is not real tax advice. Go see an accountant.
I don't want to say it's not real tax advice, but again, every situation is different. So I don't want to just say something and then be all like, you should do this, because no, but
she is not an accountant. She is a bookkeeper. Go see an accountant.
Well, right. And we'll talk about tax certifications in a minute, because I am going to be getting a tax certification. That's what I'm working on right now. But I will actually be able to prepare taxes, and I do know consulting. But what I'm saying is each situation is different. And so if you want help, we would have to have a conversation. And you could always email me as well. Maybe could set up a time if you need help with any of that kind of stuff. So
yeah. Anyways, it was something that I didn't know. It was something that happened like before I met you guys. So it was like not really an option for me because it's not like my family even knows much about this stuff. Because it's not like they've ever worked with a disabled person before. So they don't necessarily know like how, like what the differences is, what words, English. What the difference is, yeah, I write better than I speak, okay?
Okay.
It's just a natural thing, all right? It's weird. It's just part of my life.
I'm playing fun.
It's okay. I know people make that joke with me all the time, and I don't blame them. So, but I think it was one of those situations where there was not much that I could do as far as that goes. I think if I was to have advice on this type of thing, depending on what you want to do, like with your life, if you nail it down, like if you have a situation where you don't know what your career is, find out what you're good at, find out what you want to do, really nail down what you want to do, make sure that you have a game plan.
Yes.
Like if you are good at writing and you're good at something like that, I became a copywriter. If you're good at maybe if you're good at art, pick up an art class, pick up graphic design or something. If you're good at app development, web development, I don't know, be an app developer, be a web developer, I mean, I don't know, man. You can do anything you want to do. You just have to really nail down what you're good at and make sure that you have a plan to get to that goal, to learn those skills and things like that. And then once you do have that plan, maybe research some certifications or find out if you need formal training, because there are a lot of things that don't need formal training these days. You can get a certification, you can learn these skills, you can practice these skills, you can figure this all out by hand. It's not like you can be self-taught at more things now than
Yes,
ever.
you can. The other thing I was going to say is, if college isn't an option, did you know that a lot of colleges are actually offering certifications now and at really low prices? So these you want to look at like your community colleges. Don't look at your big university. For example, Austin Community College is the one I'm going to. I am doing this certification to become an enrolled agent. Now, you're asking, what the heck is an enrolled agent? An enrolled agent is somebody who is certified by the IRS to do tax returns and represent clients in front of the IRS. AKA, if you have a tax problem or you owe a bunch of money to the IRS, basically I'm certified to represent you in IRS practice. Now, why is this important? Well, we talk about tax returns, I've talked about all this other stuff. And that's why I said I'm getting a certification with the IRS.
Mhm.
So I'm doing that through a college certificate. So colleges now have degrees, but they also have certificates. Certificates in Austin Community College land, typically are short credentials that you can get, sometimes within 8 weeks. The class that I'm in right now is 8 weeks long.
Oh, that's nuts.
So here's the thing too. I just got an email yesterday from the Career Center, whatever. The way I'm boiling this down to is sometimes colleges will offer practical practical jobs that will be done on campus to help people in the community. So for example, I just got an email yesterday that Austin Community College is going to be hiring tax students to work at their campus, the Highland campus, the main campus, work at the campus and help prepare tax returns for a nonprofit for people in Austin for basically a living wage. So it would be like 20 hours a week, and basically you would, apply the tax knowledge that I'm learning in my class, and I could work at Austin Community College for this nonprofit, helping people in Austin, Texas, prepare their tax returns. Like I said, who knows if I get hired for that, but like those are some of the opportunities that at least I have in my major.
Mhm. All right, so we have other skill building questions to really talk about.
Okay.
So I want to also talk about like life skills, the day to day type skills, and maybe some like resources that people can like look at, and as far as that goes. So Taylor, I understand. I'm not going to out you, but I understand that life skills are kind of an issue, and I know that even the playing field, some life skills are an issue for me too. So I think it's a good idea, and Michael also thinks it's a good idea that maybe to talk about like these daily life type skills. In the past, to learn these skills, have you been able to like find like these how to do these life skills, or do you just not know where to turn?
Well, in Michigan, I turned to the voc rehab.
Mm-hmm.
In Texas, it's a little bit more complicated. Like I said, I know Michael's muted, so I'm probably going to end up getting him to speak, that was not my intention. But in Texas, I could technically do that and I can get training. The issue for me is that their training is very, very intensive. And for my multiple disabilities, the training style that they implement for for people does not work effectively for my disabilities.
It doesn't suit everyone.
Right.
It only suits certain types of people.
Yeah.
So
I'm not going to go into all the philosophical stuff because that's just not for this podcast.
Well, I mean, yeah, it kind of is. If you really wanted to talk about it, this is raw conversations. This is not formal.
I'm not philosopher.
You're not a philosopher, but you can still talk.
I'm not even philosophical either. Basically, it's a training philosophy that NFB implements that may not be always good for people with multiple disabilities. That's kind of where I'll leave that. If Michael really wants to unmute, he can expand on that.
Yeah, I think we all know where that ends up, especially if you've been to an NFB training center or an NFB related training center, affiliated training center, because I've heard horror stories.
Yeah. Not saying that Texas is as bad as those, but like the style, they really mimic that kind of style.
No, not okay. But
so yeah, I don't know. Like right now, what I actually do is I turn to friends. Believe it or not. Yeah. I say, hey, I cannot figure out this. Like,
there is just something in my life that I cannot figure out. So, have you ever heard of Hadley?
Oh, I have.
They actually have life skills workshops.
They do. I find their stuff pretty good. But I've taken some courses in the past that were not as like, I don't know how to say this other than like some of these skills that they try to teach, it's like better to do it in person because you just don't like.
Yeah.
There's lot of my high school classes were through Hadley. It was complicated, but some of them were.
Oh, wow. Yeah, Hadley is not a high school anymore.
No, it was though when I was in high school.
Yeah. Yeah, Hadley's not a high school anymore. They don't do academic stuff anymore. They used to do all this stuff. They used to be a college. They used to be a high school. They used to do all this cool stuff online.
I did learn a lot from them though, so.
Yeah, and now they're just this random assortment of workshops that this random assortment of free workshops. I feel like they've gone downhill in some areas and uphill in others.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's still a .edu address, which is weird. Because they're not a college anymore, and usually that's like a college specific whatever, but it is fine. But yeah, I kind of miss the days where it used to be a high school and a college and things like that.
Yeah, that was always nice. What?
Michael. Michael's asking if they still teach technology in Braille.
I don't know.
They do.
They do?
But okay. It's very weird. It's like Braille workshops and things like that. It's not like you go through formal lessons and formal training.
Right,
anymore.
That's what I think, yeah.
You just kind of get self-taught these things. I think they still do Braille I think they still do some Braille and some technology as like a formal training. I don't know. I have to look more into that, but they also do like daily living skills and things like that. They teach that type of stuff. And then there's also a resource roundtable that they do every like month or so.
You can edit me out if you want, but I just wanted to go ahead and chime in because it's easier than chat. But yeah, it's very interesting because the last thing I've heard from them, they were still doing those things, and they used to send documentation out and things like that, like braille paper and all these things with all that stuff. So
Yeah.
that's interesting. They're not doing that anymore.
Sir, I am not going to edit you out because that was a
Uh-uh.
worthy contribution.
Yes, and you can feel free to contribute anytime. So I don't know
Yeah, it
what
doesn't
you're
matter.
worried
Like
about.
you're here. You're here. It's fine. That
Okay,
this
so
is a
I'll officially be in the podcast. Hey everyone.
get on
Uh,
in here.
I'm on so many podcasts on the network. I just didn't want to take anything away from what
Oh,
these
You're not.
wonderful
It's
folks.
called a. It's called a conversation.
it's
What the
an
heck?
unfiltered, raw conversation. Like we
Well, that's
are.
good, so people can know in the future that this is okay. So
Yeah, just
yeah,
jump in.
I feel like I really feel like it's what Taylor said. What one of you said. I don't remember anymore who it was. That it really is important to emphasize that friends are the best way to
They are.
really learn new skills,
Yeah.
because somebody may know something that you may not know, and you may know something that somebody else doesn't know. And the best thing that anybody can do, in my opinion, is have an open mind,
Yes.
right?
Right.
It is having that ability to say, I know what I know, but they may know so much more than me. And I'll tell you, the one thing that I've learned over the years is fake it until you make it. Act like you know what you're doing. Act like observe people, watch what they do, and mimic it. And by the time you mimic something enough times, you'll actually learn that thing.
Right.
Believe it or not, that's how I learn most of what I know.
And I've had to learn really, 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 really well that messing up is part of it.
Yep.
Like if you're trying to learn how to if you're trying to learn how to wash laundry, you might have a couple pink shirts in the wash because you forgot to put in a color catcher or you forgot to use color safe detergent or something like that. And or you can't separate your clothes.
Tide
You
Pods,
might
warm
get a
water,
few. Oh my god, yes. Tide Pods are my best friend.
and warm water. That way, it's not hot. It won't mess up your clothes too much.
Right.
And see, I don't dry my shirts, so I just hang them up, and so I just there's tricks that you learn because I don't like my clothes to shrink. I'm a bigger guy, so there's tricks that you can learn, right? And that I've learned over the years. I just do this same pattern every time I do laundry, and everything's great.
Yep, exactly. Once you learn it, you're good. Oh, I can definitely tell you, I have had my fair share of stories with cooking. Cooking was very hard to
Oh
learn
God.
for me. Like I just could not get it down. I was scared to death of the oven. I was fine with the stove, but I was scared to death of the oven. Like I could cook on a stovetop no problem. But if I cannot see your oven racks, I am not touching that oven. Nope. There is no possible way. If I cannot tell what I am doing, I am not putting anything on them racks. But then we got an oven that was perfectly viewable. It had bright lights on the inside. I could see where
Interesting.
the racks were. And then I was like, man, I can cook like a boss. I'm gonna cook
So
some stuff.
can I share how I do it?
Sure.
So I cook with an oven completely non-visually. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And what I do is, if I have a pan or whatever with all the stuff in it, I
Mm-hmm.
hold the pan with one hand, make it where I could get a good grip on it. And then I will use the pan as or the whatever the stuff is in as a guide to feel where the racks are.
Yeah. I know someone who uses like those adapted of gloves that go all the way to your elbow.
I
Mm-hmm.
use those. Yeah.
And they have one hand to kind of feel for the rack, because like if they're using an of glove, they're not going to burn themselves,
That's
right?
what I do.
And then put the pan on the. But I think I'm used to the shorter gloves
Mm-hmm.
because I worry still that I'm gonna burn myself or my
Another
hand's gonna be there too
mhm.
long.
Another trick is when you open the oven and you go to put something in, have your arm fully extended while you're holding the pan.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
way, you're not going to get, any of your exposed skin. You know, you could go straight up with that glove and the top of the inside of the oven, and you
Hmm.
won't burn yourself
Right,
as long as you don't bring your arm up with it. So
right.
there's little tricks like that that people don't even think about. You know,
Yeah, right.
I
Absolutely.
have I have oven gloves that go halfway up my arm. I don't have the elbow ones, but the yeah, I don't even really work. I just don't use my oven because it takes so long to prepare all the kind of meals I want to put in there. That's why I don't use it. It's not a safety issue. I just don't want to do it.
Dude,
Right.
I'll throw something in the air fryer or the convection oven, the little countertop oven
Mm-hmm.
that we have before I even think about touching the big oven.
Mm-hmm.
No, thank you. I'll cook on the stove.
Oh yeah.
I don't mind cooking on the stove. Man, I can mix up a good pot of pasta. But I'm just not.
I'm better at the oven.
Yeah,
Really?
Yeah,
I
I don't
just
like
have
the
to.
stove.
Yeah, I just have to like. I don't know. I've had a few mess ups. I've burnt some things. I've dropped some pans. I've dropped a few items into the oven. Oh God, that's a horror story. I wasn't home once. Let's not talk about it. But uh people just have, you just got to go into it thinking you know how, like thinking, man, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna figure this out, and then just do it. Just start doing it, and then be like, oh, like problem solve. That's like the
And
best way to do it. It's like just to go in thinking, I know how to do this. I'm gonna
mm-hmm.
do this. I'm gonna do it right now. You know.
There's a saying, and that is, to find to be found, you must first be lost.
Right.
And to any problem has a solution. It's not a problem unless it can be solved. So my recommendation is figure out the best way to solve any problem and you'll do it. You know,
Hmm.
I always tell people if you have the willpower to make $1 million, you're going to make $1 million. There's
Yeah.
always alternative techniques to doing everything that you want to do. And going back to what Taylor was talking about with training centers, yes, and I've had vocally disagreed with whenever did work in voc rehab of how things were done,
Hmm.
and I you know I did what I was told because when you have a job, you have a job, right? But I
Right.
always said, this is my as a person that is in this industry, this is how I believe this should be done. And even then, everybody at the center respected my opinions and what uh, how I trained, and they let me. They actually, people that had difficulties working in that environment, I actually trained them one on one because I was willing to do that. Not, they don't always have teachers that are willing to do that, but you know, it just depends on what a person needs, and that's the most important thing. A lot of these vocational rehabilitation programs around the country, including Texas now, are based on employability. Is somebody able to be employed? But what happens when you have somebody that's already employed that doesn't have the skills they need? that's another category altogether.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
That's a mess.
Or if they're
So
self-employed, that's
this actually brings me uh to a question. So well, not really to a question, but like I've also noticed that like people have their own style of doing things because, that is kind of like part of the part of the being disabled is that we do different things and we do different, we have different ways that we do things. We do things differently than like the sighted person or the able-bodied person, depending on like what disability you have. So I've noticed that people in general just kind of have different ways of doing things in, the disability world. So I've noticed that VR or other centers will train someone in a certain way. And if they don't do it that way, they're penalized and they're shunned for not doing it the way that they were taught. Now, I think there's a good and a bad to that. I think the good is that maybe the way that they're teaching this person is safer. But I think there's a bad to that because they're just doing it the way that they know how. And if you shun them for doing it that way, they're going to have a hard time. The reason why they're doing it that way is because they have a hard time doing it the way that they were taught. So they're doing the task. I think that's really all that matters is they're doing the task. The task is getting done, maybe not perfectly, but it is getting done in a way and a manner that is helpful and works for them. What is your stance on that, Michael?
Oh boy. Okay. So I have quite a few opinions on this. It really depends because I do agree with you that everybody needs to have their own way of doing things. That's life, right? We all have our
Yeah.
own ways of doing things. However, my only exception to that, and this is kind of where it falls into line with voc rehab, is there's 3 words that one of our staff at Chris Cole used to say. It was confidence, competence, and independence.
Mm-hmm.
3 words.
Right.
Do you have the confidence to be with your skills to be successful, whether it be with O&M, laundry, making your food, your technology, or your
Mm-hmm.
career? Do you have the confidence? Do you have the competence? Do you have the skills? Are you able to do those things and know how to do them? And then once you have those, are you independent with those? So it's kind of like it's a checklist. Do you have the confidence, competence, and independence to be able to move forward with what you're doing?
Right.
And if you don't have those, then let's see how we can get you to have those. Like for instance, I'm going to use you, Taylor, for this example, if you don't mind.
I don't mind.
Taylor was taught open palm technique. It didn't stick, did it?
Well, I tried to do it, but
I don't even know what that is.
It is where you hold the cane in the palm of your hand and you can just move 2 fingers and the cane will arc left and right correctly.
I tried to do it, but I think it kind of
Oh
hurt after a
dear.
while.
Mm-hmm. It's a very simple and efficient method. It makes it where the cane will not jab you, but I don't use a cane that way, so I don't use it. Taylor, it didn't stick, and she went back to what works best for her. May not be the best technique that you use, but it's what you use.
Well, and
And
it
you
doesn't
won't.
hurt my hand, so.
Mm-hmm. Well, it should not hurt your hand, but
No, open palm did, so.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's what's best for the person, right?
Interesting.
Like at the Chris Cole Center, they teach open palm, but you know, I'm a type that all I need a cane for is to detect steps. I can see everything else. So I
Mhm.
just have a big roller ball and just let it go in front of me. That's all I need a cane for. And
Right.
so I can walk around confidently with that. Now I need to get me a bigger cane, but that's another story. But a longer cane because I walk very, very fast. And so for me, what works for me is not what works for Taylor, and what works for Taylor doesn't work for somebody else. And
Mhm.
and that's the key here is what works best for a person. Now, here's the thing. I could put it on a blindfold tomorrow and I could walk around Austin. In fact, when I went through my immersion process at the state, within like 2 weeks, I was walking around and I was teaching students, O&M basically. I'm not a licensed O&M instructor before anybody asks. I was able to, and people were saying, why aren't you an O&M? You're a natural at it. I'm like, it's similar to computers. If you can figure out how to get through a computer without having to, rely on instructions, then you can be good at O&M because you're using the same problem solving skills to go from A to B to C to D.
Mhm.
And the same with, being blindfolded. If you have the problem solving skills, I had I'm sorry, I'm monopolizing the conversation. I just have so many stories. I have, somebody said, I bet you I can confuse you. Well, you will not figure out where you are in Austin and you won't be able to get back in 2 hours. I said, can I use my
Watch me.
phone? I said, can I use my phone? Yes. Great.
Watch me.
So they drove me around in a car under blindfold, couldn't see where I was going, and they dropped me off. And they said, all right, you got an hour and 45 minutes.
Right.
And so I stood there. I waited about 5 minutes. I'm like, okay, I'm in a parking garage. There's cars moving above me and around me. Got it. Where are the cars going? That way. Hey, look, I hear a train. That's the metro train. That means I am at one of these big parking garages over here on this street and this street. Right. I should be able to walk out of this building, take a right, and get to a bus stop and get back to the center. And sure enough, that's what I did.
That's interesting. I'm not able to do that.
Problem solving, just being around and knowing your environment is, how you could solve those things. And then just figuring out ways, if this then that. If this happens, do that.
Yeah. Right.
And just knowing if something happen. Okay, here's another example. On that same trip, I walked out of the parking garage. Thought I had it going on. I was like, yeah, I'm confident. I'm on the sidewalk. Oh yeah, I'm great.
I
Hey
do this crap.
sir, hey sir, do you realize you're walking right in the middle of 2 lanes of traffic? I do now.
Oh my god.
This was told to me by somebody in a car on my right side.
Oh my god.
So I adjusted, got back on the sidewalk, and kept going along my way.
Oh dear. I don't even think I use. So back to the whole open palm technique. I don't know why I'm still on this, but I don't think I use open palm. I don't think so. I was taught to have my pointer finger down the flat side of the cane with the flat side like facing up and then grip the the cane with like my thumb and my middle finger and have my pointer going down the front of the flat side. So that's interesting. I didn't know there was more gripping techniques. That's super interesting. I don't know what that technique is called. There you
Yeah,
go.
there's several techniques, and my technique is called hold it across my in front and just let it roll.
Yeah. I keep my pointer finger down the flat side and the flat
Yes.
side facing up. And then
Yep.
my thumb and my middle finger are gripping like the rest of the cane.
Mm-hmm. Do you use two tap?
I use constant contact.
Yep, that's basically what I do, but I don't move it back and forth. I just let it go in front.
That could be a trip hazard for some people, I've heard.
Well, constant contact can be a trip hazard too.
Yeah. The cane in general is a trip hazard. You just gotta
Yep.
make sure that you're I have like I try to keep like a cane and a half distance behind people. People are like,
Especially
"Oh, why are you walking so slow? Why are
especially
you
with a
traveling like this?"
especially with a 70-inch cane, that thing can trip anybody.
Yeah.
Woo, sheesh. All right. Yeah. I have like a it's funny because in traditional O&M standards, I should have like a 40 something inch cane, like a 40, like a 44 or 46. I have like a 50-inch cane because I walk fast.
Okay, so I'm trying not to make a joke here, but okay. With your
Everybody's
height,
gonna know I'm short. I'm 4'9".
so what does that equate to in inches?
I don't know. Like I don't know, like
Okay, so that's about as tall as you.
right.
So that is the appropriate height, in my opinion. There are a lot
If
of
you're
people that
walking fast, especially.
yes, there are
My
a lot of
cane
people.
goes up to my nose almost.
Good. I think they should go up to your forehead, but that's just me.
I don't need it to go up to my forehead. I walk with I don't know. I don't walk that fast.
Yeah, so my preferred cane, I'll just tell y'all, my preferred cane is an Ambutech graphite heavy duty cane that is completely blue, including the handle. It's wonderful.
I have a blue cane. It's not the cane that I'm using now, but I have a blue cane.
They're awesome.
The cane that I'm using now is a no jab with the spring in the handle.
Hmm.
And actually, you have me thinking. I'm curious. As a matter of fact, right now, I am going to look up my cane and see how tall it is compared to. Oh, it is almost up to my forehead. It is almost up to my forehead.
Mm-hmm. Now
It's
there
up
are
to my
two.
nose, but it's past my nose.
Mm-hmm.
It's like past the bridge of my nose.
Yeah, that's where mine usually goes. There's two schools of thought. Some people think that a cane should go up to your chest. I believe they should go up to your forehead if you're going to
I
be a
agree.
faster walker.
Yeah. I'm a bit of a faster walker. I used to carry a 46 or a 48-inch, but now I carry like a 52-inch almost. So, yeah, that was interesting. I don't think anyone on a podcast has ever pulled out their cane before.
I'm sure they have.
I'm sure they have.
But, well, at least in this network.
No.
I'm not sure. But, yeah. All right. Well, let's go ahead and wrap up. I think as far as like this goes, we'll just do like advice. We'll do, your who you are, what you can how they can find you online and advice based on like the episode. Michael, do you want to go ahead and go first?
Sure. So my advice is, again, this podcast is going to be a great resource for people, and I think that this topic needs to come up again and again and again because I feel like it's not something people talk about, and I think this is a good platform to really bring that out. So I'm glad that you're doing this podcast. I think it's going to be very useful for people, and it's good just to have conversations, I think. And um, so my advice to people out there is to figure out what makes you you and what lets you be yourself, not what other people want you to be, but to be yourself. And just life is short, enjoy your life, and live it the best way you want to. You know, and one thing I want to point out is, I have my methods that I think we could follow up on this show on, how we because we talked about certain things, but I think it'd be good to have an episode, Alicia, on how do people that have not had formal training do the things they do, because that's a whole aspect we haven't even gotten into here.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that would be a good topic for you to bring up with folks, and just figure out what is the best way for you to be yourself, whether it be in your career, your soft skills, your life skills, all those things. And I think it would be good to start a conversation around that here in, the YouTube channel, the WhatsApp community, the Facebook group, all the places for the IACast network. And I really think that this is going to be a great show. And I'm very excited for there to be more episodes. And yeah, so I'm Michael Dowies. You can find me all over this network. I was trying to stay quiet today, but I had things
You
to
didn't.
say.
Yeah, that's the thing, Michael. You always have things to say, and you just can't.
Yeah.
I guess they just need to be said.
I guess I encourage it though. So
Yeah,
Well, I
it's
was already
fine.
typing in chat, and I'm like, well,
Yeah.
let me just unmute and say those things. So,
Yeah.
you know, you can email me, mikedowies@icloud.com, mikedowies@techopolis.social on Mastodon, all the places. And yeah.
All right. Taylor.
yeah, so you can find me. Let's see. TayarNDT at techopolis.social. You can also find me pretty much all over the web, my YouTube channel, producing content for eye accessibility and IACast and the whole network. I guess my advice is don't do it alone. If you feel like you're lacking a certain skill, find a group of people and ask them how they do it, or ask them what they would do, and try to get help that way. Because I understand if you've not had good training. Yes, I have had voc rehab training. I don't want to say it's good or bad or whatever. If you've had adequate training, that's a more appropriate word. If you've had adequate training and you maybe have some splinter skills, which are basically where your skills are kind of partially formed, then you want to make sure that you can get help if you need it. And that's kind of why I say find a group of people who are like yourself and ask them how you would do a certain thing. That's kind of my advice for this week.
Yeah. All right. Oh, where they can find you online.
No, I already said that.
Oh, did you? Okay. I missed it. I'm sorry. All right. Well, my advice is always be trying new things and always be researching. So if you cannot find the answer to your problems, if you cannot find like the method around the madness, if you cannot find the way to, form your skills best, do research or ask other people, or you're not alone. All right. Also, don't let people convince you. Don't let people convince you that you can't do these things. Don't let people convince you that you can't have a career and you can't hold down a job and you can't do any of this. Don't let people convince you that you can't do your own laundry, or you can't clean your own house, or you can't organize your own room, or you can't cook your own meals. Don't let people convince you that you can't, because you can. You just have to have the the willingness to try it. You have to have the willingness to figure stuff out. Obviously, this is not a cause to go cook unsupervised on the oven, or on the stove, because don't burn your house down. Like, all right, like, I am not reliable if you burn your house down.
Yeah, IACast not liable.
Eyes off the norm, IACast network, and I am not liable for if you decide to go try to cook unsupervised and burn your house down. But you can do it. It's just a matter of finding your own way to do it and, having your own style of doing it. You just have to learn like what works best for you. You can find me online as Alicia Geary on LinkedIn and Facebook, and Blind One Lives or Alicia Geary on Discord. You can find me on Mastodon as Blind One Lives at techopolis.social. You can also find me on my website at blindcopywriter.com. All of my socials are all in one place at blindcopywriter.com/links, LINKS. So if you want to find all of my social medias and keep track of me, that's where you can do. All right. Another thing, Michael, I probably should ask you a permission. For the eye accessibility subgroup, for an eye accessibility group, I'm curious if I can open up something like a Eyes Off the Norm support forum as a subgroup in that group. Would you be opposed to that?
Didn't know you could do such things, but
Yes, you
yes,
can.
that would be fine. If we can
All
make
right.
subgroups for our podcasts, that would be great. I'd love that.
Yeah, because I want people to have a place to go if they are struggling with something, or if they need help with something, they need advice, they can pop in and ask these questions and, post them and, get advice and get help.
Yep.
So, especially if they can't access formal training and they need to know how to do these things and they need to know like best resources to find, they can go to Eyes Off the Norm support forum and get those answers.
That'd be fantastic.
And because I don't know, when I started this podcast, I really wanted people to have like a space, because I know I didn't have that space. I never had that space to like go ask a bunch of people like how to do these things and how do they do these things. So I want people to have that space to open up and ask like these daily life or career struggle questions that nobody wants to talk about, because the blind community is so focused on empowering themselves and empowering each other that they kind of don't really show the imperfections of life. And that's really what I want to show off here is like life's not perfect. Life is not this designed, structure that everybody shows off. Like I just want to be like, raw.
So one thing to point out is you get a lot of this in the consumer organizations, NFB, ACB.
You do.
However, one thing is, and this has really been a concern of mine for a long time, and I think that the IACast network and Eyes Off the Norm are great avenues for this. There's not a lot of support for people that are low vision or legally blind but are not totally blind. There's a lot of, there are people in these organizations, but primarily it is people that are totally blind. So I think that this is a good way to facilitate that. And I would like to see that expanded further in iAccessibility, IACast, and everything else that we do. So.
Right, exactly. So starting literally today, it'll probably be in the show notes. It doesn't exist at the moment because it was just a random idea I had in the middle of this podcast. See, raw and unfiltered. Here we go. Yep. But today, maybe I'll post it up. I'll post it up on Mastodon and I'll make sure that it's in the iAccessibility group and I'll post it on the iAccessibility Facebook group. So if you want to get involved with this forum, you can first go to the iAccessibility Facebook group and you can get the link. There is an action button on the iAccessibility Facebook page that will lead you to join the group. Now, once you join the group, just message me or at me or something, and I will be sure to invite you and add you to the subgroup, because I'm going to, right after we're finished with the live today, I'm going to create that subgroup. So yeah, this was a very raw and interesting episode, and I think this is going to be a really good space for conversation people for people with blindness and visually impaired, to like really have these support avenues that not very many people talk about publicly. So I hope this was able to benefit you in some way, and just remember, you're not alone. Have a good day, everyone.
Have a good day, everyone.
Good one.